And welcome to another episode of HeadFirst with Dr. Hill. Today's guest is Luke Storey, who's the host of the Lifestylist podcast and another one of our local entrepreneurs who has got his hands in all kinds of pies. So, Luke, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. So, Luke, first of all, for those listeners who may not have heard the Lifestylist podcast, what is your mission there? What are you doing?
Well, with the podcast, what I'm doing is translating somewhat complex people and ideas in terms of spirituality and health to regular people. So that's my mission. I see myself as like a bridge from great minds like you or Jack Kruse or, people within health or even meditation teachers and things like that have somewhat esoteric ideas that can really benefit your life. And it's about extracting the most core principles out of those teachings and from those teachers and using them to build the ultimate lifestyle.
Interesting. So lifestyle, say more about that.
Yeah. So, what you do with your day-to-day life from the moment that you wake up in terms of mindset, are you waking up and, checking politics on Twitter when you roll out of bed, or are you waking up and writing a gratitude list and meditating?
Okay,
it's like,
all right.
What you're eating, what you're drinking, the water in your home, the lighting in your home, things that you just do to improve your mindset, things like meditation, mindfulness. For the past 20 years, I've basically been trying anything and everything I've heard that improves your life in any way.
Okay.
And in terms of like mind, body, or spirit, or hopefully a combination of all three, and implementing them, seeing what works, what doesn't, and then tracking down the people behind those ideas or the experts in any particular field, and then sort of bringing them to the world. So I might have an episode that's like on EMFs in your bedroom, and it's just about that, or one on cryotherapy, or any number of different topics. So it's like, building a life. And where I got that sort of concept and idea was not only from just practicing all that stuff myself from all these years, but I used to be a fashion stylist. And I did that in Hollywood for, 17 years.
Okay.
Which for anyone listening doesn't know what that is, that means you dress other people. So celebrities for red carpet, music videos, magazines, commercials, stuff like that. So it's like I would take these bits and pieces and put together a composite look for someone. Oh, these shoes go with this necklace and this dress, et cetera, which was fun and creative, but it wasn't like my true passion as it turned out. But all the while I was kind of doing that for my friends, but more on an internal basis. Oh, hey, try this superfood, try this herb, try this nootropic, try neurofeedback, try ice baths, infrared saunas, whatever it is, breathing exercises, all that stuff. So I thought, you know what, I want to work with people on a deeper level rather than like, hey, cute shirt, Andrew.
Right.
Hey, it does though. Your shirt matches your glasses right now. So you got it pulled together pretty well. But after a while, living on that level of in terms of work was just, I didn't find it to be that fulfilling. And so on the entrepreneur trip, I started something called School of Style, which is a fashion school to teach people how to do that. And that's like my sort of main bread and butter now while I'm emerging with the podcast and stuff, which has been going for about a year. So I'm kind of one foot in the Hollywood fashion entertainment scene still, and then one foot in the health and wellness and sort of spirituality scene.
Oh, that's great. So how long? So just over a year? It's under a year, you said?
Yeah, the podcast has been going a year, and
nice milestone.
Yeah, it's cool. The year anniversary, we had Neil Strauss on, world famous author, a friend of mine, and we had him on for the year anniversary, which was June 6th. And at that point, we were up to about 600,000 downloads.
Wow.
So, with no advertising and just kind of word of mouth and getting really great guests. I've been very fortunate in having people like you and many other people. That,
wasn't I on the show? I was on that
show.
Yeah,
you were on there. Yeah, you were one of my early guests. Yeah. I think we called it like hacking your brain with neurofeedback or something.
Yeah.
So, it's just, you may have found this too with your show, but what's been really cool is that I noticed immediately I was able to get interviews with people or get on a Skype with someone that either normally would never talk to me or I'd have to pay them enormous amounts of money to like sit down and be therapized by them or something,
Right.
So it's like I reached out to people like, yeah, I'll do your show. I'm like, really?
Right.
In the beginning especially, I didn't really have any credibility in this industry per se, but I knew a few good people, and once you get like one sort of big name guest, then others will follow and stuff. But I've been very fortunate. It's really fun.
That's great. Yeah, I haven't had any trouble yet. I've only had a dozen shows or something, but I'm either picking people that I've been on their shows,
right,
or people that are teachers of mine, spiritual teachers, meditation teachers, yoga teachers, and so people that I've had a direct, I sort of ask them, and they feel like they have to say yes,
right,
because they work with me in other ways.
Yeah, totally.
That's great. So, Lifestylist podcast is a year old. Your style school is called
It's called School of Style.
School of Style.
Yeah, and that it's just a totally different industry. Like when I talk to people that are into the stuff we're into, they're like, "What? I don't get it." Essentially, it's like half trade school, half art school.
Mm-hmm.
It's an independent fashion school, and we hold classes with between 35 and 50 people a few times a year in LA or New York. And New York.
Bicoastal.
Yeah, and so we just bring people in, and it's sort of like a seminar / boot camp. There'll be classes run between 2 or 9 days.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 2 main classes, and essentially what we do is just take usually younger people, it's probably like average age 25 years old, people that have like been to college and didn't learn what they want to do for a living, or people that have been, graduate high school, been in the workforce, and they're frustrated and doing something they don't love, and they want to do something glamorous and creative, which is, very much working within the fashion industry. So we're kind of niched down where we just teach you how to become a personal stylist, which means you dress executives and regular people, or you become a fashion stylist, which means you dress celebrities and models and things like that. So we teach them the art of the business and just kind of how that works as being a freelancer or an entrepreneur, depending on which kind of avenue you go. And then we help get them jobs. So it's very fulfilling in that way, because you'll take some kid that's like, hey, I'm just moved to LA from Idaho, and like literally a day after class, we'll send them on a Beyonce video or like a Vogue shoot. So it's really cool being able to see like people's dreams come true.
Yeah.
Even though it's not particularly my dream anymore, because I'm just not involved in the fashion industry. I would rather be off like collecting spring water, like, getting some new biohacking gadget going or doing neurofeedback or whatever. But so I still do that. It's a great way to kind of give back and, help younger people get into that industry as I sort of phase out of it.
It's wonderful. So you have this fashion history, and now you're moving more sort of personally into the biohacking, if you will, space, and you're becoming an influencer in that space. You said earlier you were trying all these things sort of on a personal basis and with your friends. Begs the question, what did you find? Let me ask it this way. What is the first thing where you were like, oh, okay, this makes a change? Like, what was the big first impact?
Well, the impetus for my getting into all of this stuff was totally destroying my life when I was a teenager and in my early 20s. I was like a really, really bad drug addict.
Okay.
And just, into all kinds of gnarly stuff, criminal activity and below that, So I essentially like burned my life to the ground. And then I started, I cleaned up. I went to a treatment center and I got sober, thank God, when I was 26. That's 20 years ago. And it'll be 21 in a little bit. So that was like, hitting that rock bottom classic case. I just had nothing. I dropped out of high school. I used to play music, so I played in a band, and I just was totally unemployable and just had a horrendous life. And so when I got sober, I started learning how to meditate, and I went to India to a place called Oneness University and learned how to do this trippy thing called Diksha, like these energy transfers, and started reading all these spiritual books and studying all these gurus and getting into like this would be the late, mid 90s version of health food stores and smoothies and stuff like that. Back then the health food store was like bulk bin of oats and stuff. What I mean? It was like, you didn't have the advanced stuff we have now, reishi mushroom extract, spores, and, all this kind of stuff. But I think the first needle mover for me was really learning about meditation and starting to study spiritual truths, just studying spiritual principles, learning how to apply them to my life. That was like when things started profoundly changing, because I started to become less selfish and self-centered, which I had just become like completely narcissistic. And it was just, I was in survival mode for those years. I mean, when you're a drug addict, it's just like, you don't care about anything except getting well,
Right.
So I started learning about being of service to other people in a meaningful way, not just to get attention for it and like brag about it, but actually helping people when no one's looking, that kind of stuff. And just, learning about just prayer and for me in a religious sense, but just some of those basic principles, just willingness, acceptance, surrender, gratitude, mindfulness, just learning how to be present in my body. So it was first psychological, but then I was also very toxic physically. So I started doing a lot of crazy fasting and stuff. I would do like 20-day, 30-day fast on just vegetable juice.
Wow.
And and, making my own kombucha and just, all kinds of weird stuff. Back then it was like all about juicing and then colonics. This is like the stuff. So I remember once I went to a place called Angel Farms on the big island of Hawaii, and they do something called a gravity fed or a kalima type colonic. And essentially you lay on this table for 2 hours a day, and they just have this tiny little like Bic pen that goes inside you. I mean, it sounds uncomfortable in a way, but it's not as awkward as it might seem.
Sure.
If you've ever had a colonic, sometimes it's a bigger tube, but it's like this little tube that goes in you, but you lay there for 2 hours and 20 gallons of water go in and out of you. So that was and I did that for 12 days straight.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was it was actually a really pivotal point in my health, because I just was able to detox God knows what, I mean, you see these like creatures coming out of you, after that 2 hours, and little like, toy cars you ate when you were a kid, or something. Like when you got a shark and there's a shopping cart inside them, just crazy random old stuff coming out. So that was like the base was fasting, colonics, just detoxing in a hardcore way. And then it was like the course of building up. But I would say like spiritually and mentally, therapy, support groups, all that kind of stuff. In the mind, and then just a lot of cleansing, and then sort of have been building from there ever since.
And all of these practices you're describing, these contemplative practices, meditation, mindfulness, etc. Are you still? Did those stick with you? Are you still using this?
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've gone through different phases where I'll practice different techniques and things like that. What's really working for me right now is I practice Vedic meditation, which is it's kind of an offshoot of TM, Transcendental Meditation. It's a mantra-based meditation, twice a day for 20 minutes. On a good day, I'll make my 2 20-minute sessions, on a normal day, usually just the one. So that's been really profound for me, because it's the first meditation where there was an actual technique to follow. There's something to do, instead of just like, hey, just sit there and pay attention to your breath, or, have body awareness or things like that, which is all good.
Yeah.
But I find the mantra meditation really works for me, because it's like, I know there's a set time period I'm going to do it for, and it's very ceremonial. It's not like, because I'll just meditate throughout the day too, randomly in my car. I just stop and breathe and just kind of get in my body and get present. But this is like a time set aside where I turn everything off, and it's very devoted to that. And I find the mantra is really useful, and actually taking me into that transcendental place where, my mind and ego aren't necessarily running the show. I kind of have an awareness of them from a different point of view. So that's been huge, but, I'm always learning more. The other thing I think that's for the past 5 years that's been a big needle mover is doing Kundalini Yoga.
Okay.
That's like really, really moved. I don't know. Like I did it this morning for an hour and a half, and it moves the energy in ways that you just can't explain. It's really goofy if you watch it. There's all sorts of chanting and breathing exercises, like stuff. If you would have told me 20 years ago I was going to be doing this, I would like punch myself in the face. It's like so lame in a sense, just everyone wears white and turbans, and it's from the onlooker's point of view, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But dude, there's something to it. There's mudras, there's ways you hold your hands, there's way you move your arms, you move your body, combined with the breathing and the chanting. On a scientific level, I have no idea what's going on, but I know I walk in there and my consciousness and my mind are working one way, and when I walk out, something's changed.
Sure.
For the better. Kind of like Wim Hof breathing. It's like, what, you just sit there for 20 minutes and breathe in and out? What the hell is that going to do? If you try it a few times, you'll notice a profound change. So Kundalini Yoga is sort of like that. Like, you don't really know what the hell's going on, but the way I look at it is sort of for, 5,000-6,000 years, you got these goofball gurus up in the Himalayas in a cave going, I wonder what happens if I tap here 55 times and breathe this way or that way with that nostril or this nostril, and that feels good, or I don't know, they're getting it downloaded from the gods, who knows what, but these strange sort of postures and techniques have been handed down and then put together in a system, and by practicing that, it just works for me. But I'm like the kind of guy, like, I want to know how stuff works, because I'm not totally analytical and skeptical. It's more about like, if it works, I don't really care, but I would love to know, like, put me in a laboratory or something and like study what's going on in my brain, or do, neuro, like what's the EEG?
Yeah.
EEG. And like, what happens to you when you do Kundalini Yoga? I don't know.
We could find out.
But it feels really good.
Nice. I get a similar transformation from, I do Ashtanga Yoga, We don't chant as much, but it still has some of the esoteric, the other limbs that are not just the asanas, the poses. And when I first started doing yoga, it was like, oh, I'm doing a bunch of poses to get in shape, right? And then after doing it for a few years, it's like, yeah, you do the poses, but it's really about something else. Patanjali, the orderly arrangement of your limbs to order your mind.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think when I first started yoga, it was like at 24-hour fitness or something. It was like power yoga. And I was like, that's cool. It's a good workout. I like stretching and stuff like that. Yeah. But then I started doing I guess it was hatha yoga with a guy named Mas Vidal, and he still teaches. He's been on my show, actually. But he always described yoga from the point of view that the whole purpose of the physical part of it is just to get your body settled enough so you can meditate.
Yeah, to support the meditation.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's what it's for? So, I kind of keep that framework. And sometimes even in Kundalini, there's just things that they're difficult, but in a weird way. It's not like, holding a pose per se, where like it takes a lot of muscular strength and, just determination in that way, but it takes mental determination, believe it or not, to like hold your arms in front of you and make a zigzag shape for 20 minutes without letting your arms down while you're doing some weird breathing thing. It's like, I don't know, it requires a different type of discipline and determination. There's something in that too. But again, you're just doing that so that when you get to the meditation part, you can really sink into it.
And has that yoga affected your contemplative practice, do you think? Like outside of the yoga studio?
I'm not sure. Not in a quantifiable way, because they're so different. Kundalini yoga is all about like moving the energy, and you walk out of there just like you're on ecstasy or something sometimes. I mean, you can get super spaced out. I mean, there's things you can do to bring yourself back down to earth. But it's very much like moving the energy in your body, and I'm sure you're getting really oxygenated from all that crazy breathing and stuff. So it's more energizing, whereas the Vedic meditation is like puts you in a super sedated state. So I'm sure they help one another, but they seem to be at opposite ends of the spectrum.
Interesting.
Like I've never gone to Kundalini Yoga and got like really awakened and then went home and tried to meditate. I'll meditate first, kind of really be calm, and then go into Kundalini and sort of get everything stirred up.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So Kundalini Yoga, meditation, Vedic meditation.
Yeah.
What other tools do you have in your current biohacker toolbox?
Well, it's something that's been really useful for me is really optimizing sleep. And this is a big, kind of buzzword in the podcast world and health world now. So I'm always looking to fine tune that. Something that has moved the needle for me a lot is really working with the temperature, getting the temperature down. But if I run my AC all night, I have like a decent sized 2-bedroom apartment. It's really expensive, and I just don't like wasting energy. Even if I have the money to burn, it just doesn't make sense to me. So I got this thing called a Chilli Pad, which is like essentially like, imagine an electric blanket, but it just has veins of water inside it rather than wires. So there's no like EMFs or anything like that, but it's like a pad that has freezing water running through it. And so your mattress, you put it underneath your fitted sheet and your mattress is really cold. So that's like something I use. And then, I put like foam core things in my windows to really like block out all the light. And it's amazing like how much benefit I get if I just get real sleep for 8 hours. I'm an 8-hour guy. I never do. I mean, usually I get 7.5 on average. But if I'm lucky enough to sleep 8, even, randomly I might get 8.5 hours. It's like I'm in a new universe. It's just crazy. So I've really worked on sleep and supplementation with that too. Just, taking GABA and tryptophan and kava and passion flower and lemon balm and any herb I ever hear about that knocks you out.
Sounds like you're having some trippy dreams.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, just any herb that I ever hear like will knock you on your ass, I basically put them all in a blender and just drink the whole thing and see what happens, I made up this drink. It's called the Knockout Punch, and I've given it to a few people, and they tried to drive afterward, and it didn't go so well.
Oh.
So sleep's been really big. Neurofeedback, dude. Peak Brain LA. I mean, shout out, obligatory, but legitimate.
We've been working together for a little while now.
Yeah. So actually, that's funny. Speaking of sleep, when I came in and did the sleep protocol,
Yep.
that helped my sleep more than any of that other shit put together. I forgot about that. That was like that was actually the foundation of it. And
nice.
then, I'd been tweaking the temperature and the light and stuff like that for a while, but I remember coming in going, my sleep's like a little wonky, and whatever you guys did to me, it was like sleeping straight through the night, which was incredible. So that's been huge. And then, honestly, the past year's been really challenging in terms of interpersonal relationships. And it's like, I think the spiritual lessons that I'm supposed to learn right now involve how to have intimate relationships in a healthy way at 46. That's kind of what's been going on. And it's been really stressful to learn some of the lessons that I've been learning. And so coming in and doing like the alpha theta, like, those deep plunges that are, what are they, like 20, 30 minutes or something?
The alpha theta, the way we do it with you, I think we're running you for 36 or 39 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
So
I liken that to like a dry float tank. That's what it's like, which is another thing I'd love to talk about.
Yeah, it puts you in that hypnagogic state halfway between asleep and awake, and so I've never done floats in spite of everyone talking to me about floats. I've never done a float. But my perspective is that alpha theta and neurofeedback and a float tank can produce a similar sort of liminal in-between state. Is that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's the state where you really don't know if you're awake or asleep because you're dreaming. Like I did a float the other day at a place called Just Float in Pasadena. There's another one I do in Westwood called Float Lab. If anyone's interested, both of them are fantastic. But I did a float the other day, and I'm in there for 2 hours. For those of you that don't know what that is, there's no light, there's no sound, and you're floating in, a bath of Epsom salt, so there's no gravity. And the air temperature and the water temperature are the same temperature as your skin. So the idea is that you disassociate from your body, and it just kind of sets your mind or consciousness or whatever it is free to do its thing. So it is very much the same. The other day I did a float, and I couldn't tell if I was dreaming or not, or if I was like, because you do fall asleep, which is weird. You're laying in water, but you sleep. There's no chance you can drown because you can't flip over,
Yeah.
It's because you're so buoyant. You're perfectly buoyant, so just your face pokes out, So I'm in there and I'm dreaming. I always have the same dream when I'm in a float, and it's like, I think someone's knocking on the door or the alarm's going off telling me that it's over. And I'm always like, oh, damn, man, I don't want it to end yet. And then I open my eyes and it's totally dark in there and you can't hear anything. I go, oh, wait, no, I think I was asleep. And similar kind of things happens in the alpha theta where I'll hear you guys out there in the office, but then I'll kind of come to for a second. I realize I was just dreaming about hearing you guys out in the office or whatever. It's a really trippy place. So that's one of my favorite ways to de-stress would be both of those things.
Interesting.
In fact, I want to come to an alpha theta, then go directly to the float tank and see what happens.
Oh, that could be really deep. Yeah.
So I think it's like the old drug addict in me. I was never into I was into the slow jams. Let's just put it that way.
Yep.
I really like the state of like not being awake but not being asleep. I don't like to be stimulated. I like to be kind of knocked out.
Which sort of explains why you like Vedic meditation. One of my former partners, this company that closed recently called Alternatives Addiction Treatment in Beverly Hills, and we used to do a lot of moderation-focused work. And one of the principals there, Dr. Mark Kern, is known as the Habit Doc in Beverly Hills. Dr. Kern talks a lot about the magic elixir you choose and what that means about how you deal with your desires, your stressors, your coping strategies. And it seems to be that when you pick a specific drug, you tend to do other things in your life that give you the same kind of experience. It's not like you're doing coke out in the parties and then you're sitting meditating all day long. Like there tends to be a congruence of what makes you feel supported. That's
very, very interesting and true. Yeah. Because I noticed there was like, back in the drug days, you were either like a tweaker, did like crystal meth, or you did opiates and were a stoner, and it's like those two cliques never really meshed. I didn't hang out with tweakers. They were too hyper and weird, So I agree with that. Another weird thing about the drugs is that like when I did downers, even like really, smoking weed or whatever it was, things that would normally knock someone on their ass, it would make me very vivacious and talkative and kind of hyper, even opiates. I wasn't I wasn't laying there on the couch. I mean, if I did enough, I would, but it made me like jovial. And if I did stimulants like cocaine, crack, crystal meth, I would just sit in the corner and couldn't say a word.
Oh, wow.
Whereas like most people that do those stimulants, like, solve the world's problems, high on coke and all that. They just
clean every surface in house.
They can't shut up. So it's weird, but I know people that have the opposite effect too, But downers make me like come out of my shell and kind of get, buoyant, and the opposite's true with those. So yeah, you're right. I like things now that really calm me down. So neurofeedback's been huge. Float tanks have been huge. I am also, just on the way over here, I stopped and did an ice bath.
Mm-hmm.
And that my brother, I live really close to this studio, and my brother has a gym called Storey Fitness right on Pico. It's like 6 minutes from here. And we fashioned an ice bath out of one of those horizontal freezers that you get from Sears, like that you put in your, I always think my dad used to have like venison in the garage, like his hunting meat was like frozen in one of those things in the garage. And I saw someone on like Wim Hof's Instagram or something that made an ice bath out of that. And I was like, oh, there's actually not ice in it. It's just like water that's 35 degrees. And you just plug that in, fill it up with water, and you have like a $500 beautifully functioning ice bath. So I have come to love the cold. So I do cryotherapy or an ice bath, sometimes both, I'd say 5 days a week.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and I'll sit in there for 10 to 20 minutes at 35, 40 degrees. I mean, most people put their calf in there and they're like, run down the street screaming.
Yeah.
But I've been doing cold showers for 20 years. So when I found out about Wim Hof and all this stuff, I said, oh, okay, there's something to this. That's why you can't put me by a body of water without me jumping in. I mean, I don't care if it's January in Colorado, I'm like jumping in that water. Love hot springs and things like that. So I really believe in kind of the hydrotherapy, hot and cold alternating. And then I do a lot of infrared saunas too.
What kind of effects do you think you get from the cold baths?
Well, one thing for sure with the cold baths is it definitely stops the production of lactic acid and inflammation. Because I can go work out like crazy, man. Which for me isn't that hard compared to like a jock. I'm not like a super physical guy, but we do like high intensity interval training at Storey Fitness, and it's pretty hardcore. You're swinging around club bells and kettlebells and doing a lot of body weight stuff, and it's pretty intense. And I went from like no working out, maybe it's like 2 years ago. I basically didn't do a lot except yoga and hiking and swimming and stuff like that, very gentle, to those hardcore workouts. And I was at the same time also doing the ice bath right after I worked out. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was like a total gym rat. And after every workout with my brother Cody, she'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sore. For 3 days, she'd be sore. And I was like, huh? Sore from what? What are you talking about? It's literally like I've never been sore from working out from the ice bath. So that's one. But there is another theory, like Dr. Rhonda Patrick has done some research and determined that if your goal is to build muscle, that doing an ice bath right after lifting weights is not good, because the inflammation is what builds muscle. And if you shut down the inflammation right away, you're kind of screwing yourself. Yeah. But I'm an ectomorph. I'm never going to have muscles anyway, so I don't give a shit. I just want no soreness in the inflammation, because it allows me to work out harder the subsequent days because I recover so fast. So the inflammation, the lactic acid, all that stuff from being sore. But mainly what it does is it just totally resets my mind.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I did it on the way over here because I was just grinding, working today with my school, prepping for a trip in New York. I was all hot, and I'd used up a lot of mental energy, and I knew I needed to have some acuity coming in here to have this talk with you. So I said, okay, I went and jumped in the ice bath for 10 minutes, and I meditated in there. And there's just something so centering about getting in that water, because your nervous system wants to go into fight or flight. It's just like, what are we doing in here? Your nervous system's telling you you're about to die and you need to jump out. But when you can sort of override your nervous system, that first moment when I get in, it's kind of like, and then I breathe. It probably takes me 10 seconds to go into parasympathetic and just surrender to the cold, which took, a couple years of doing that. Yeah. Most people get in, they're like, they just freak out.
Right.
And it's incredible, like how much control you actually have over your nervous system if you know that you can do it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I really like that. Same with cryo. I get in there and it's like, oh, for a second, it's a little freaky. And then I just breathe, and then I'm totally relaxed. And it's almost like in the ice bath, it feels almost like my skin is hot. It doesn't even, the only thing that bothers me is my hands. If the water's like 35, 40 degrees, my hands hurt like hell. That's the only thing I can't seem to acclimate. But the rest of my body just feels so relaxed in there. And I'll just center my breathing, and I just go into this really, really centered place. It's like a different type of meditation.
Do you find the experience of doing an ice bath versus cryotherapy that's cold air is a different experience in some specific way? Or?
Yeah, the cryotherapy is good because I go to what I think is the best place I've ever been to. It's called Next Health. It's on Crescent.
Oh, Wendy's. Yeah, she was a guest actually last week.
Oh, I love Wendy.
She just released her show.
Dude, she was on my show, and she's like I mean, she's not famous that I'm aware of or anything, but she's like my 3rd or 4th most popular download.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Wendy Michelle. Yeah, amazing. We did like a 2-hour just shoot the shit kind of episode. So yeah, Next Health. But what they do with their cryo that's cool is it's cold air rather than liquid nitrogen, which most of them are.
So not vapor to burn you, essentially.
Yeah. So it really feels like you just stepped out of like a helicopter in the tundra of Alaska or something. Like, you go from like LA heat, you walk in, it's like, whoosh, it feels like a snowstorm. It's 160 below for 3.5 minutes.
Wow.
What I like about that is it's quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's other benefits scientifically that I'm unaware of versus an ice bath, but it doesn't penetrate as deep.
Mm-hmm.
You go in an ice bath for 5 or 10 minutes that's like 35, 40 degrees. Like, it rocks you to your core. I mean, you have to get out and do some Tai Chi in the sun, and like, it's going to
warm back up.
It's going to take you a minute to warm back up. Cryo, I mean, 5 minutes later, I feel totally normal. But I do get I think it's like a serotonin kind of rush in the cryo. So you do get like the happy feeling that you get from the ice bath, and you can get it in 3.5 minutes. So if you're stressed out or something like that, it's a really good reset. But I think the ice bath is just much more impactful.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it just goes to your bones, man.
Right. Literally your core.
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
chilled.
You sit in there and it's like, dude. I usually have like a fatty coffee or an elixir with grass-fed butter, bulletproof coffee, something like that. I'm off caffeine right at the moment as an experiment that maybe I'll tell you about. But if you have like a hot fatty drink and then get in an ice bath and then get out and get in the sun, I mean, you can't be depressed.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
just
it's like
energy running.
Yeah, it's the best antidepressant in the world.
Wow.
And anti-anxiety. It just totally resets your whole world because you just overrode your whole nervous system that wants to die. And you're like, nope, I've got this. And you can overcome that. Then like the business partner problem you're having or the relationship thing or whatever, kind of like, it doesn't solve it, but it shrinks it down to size a little bit, puts it into perspective.
Oh, that's interesting. So caffeine.
Here's the thing. I got my genetic test done and from Wendy, actually, at Next Health. And I always thought that I was really sensitive to caffeine.
Yep.
Because, as I said, stimulants like get me too stimulated. But I love the taste of coffee so much. Like you have the best coffee too. I don't know where you get your coffee at Peak Brain,
but gnomes that deliver it in the
dude,
night.
you have really good coffee. Every time I come in there, if it's like 5 PM or something, like I really shouldn't, but I got to do it. So I love coffee, but I've always thought I was really sensitive. But I did the genetic testing. It turns out I'm a really fast metabolizer of caffeine. So, I don't know if it's just because I sometimes drink black coffee and it kind of hits me too fast, if it's not mixed with fat, or maybe some of the coffee is moldy. I know we've had discussions about the existence of moldy coffee and if it's just a bulletproof marketing scheme or if that's really true. I can definitely say if I go into Starbucks and have like a tall black coffee, I'm going to feel like jumping off a bridge. Like there's something in it that's not agreeing with
several
me.
Times the caffeine of a nice, I mean, we make you a pour over at Peak. It's, probably got 100 milligrams of caffeine or something in it. And when you get like a 16-ounce coffee at Starbucks, it's probably, I don't know what the numbers are, but like 250, 300 milligrams.
Ah, okay.
So it's, and also they typically do very dark, heavy roasts.
Okay.
Which means a lot more char, a lot more of the sort of burned off oils, which produces that darker flavor.
Right.
So it might be more acidic that way. You might be more sensitive to those sorts of things. We always use, just FYI, super light roasts.
Right.
At Peak.
Right.
We always use very light roast, grind it very, very fine. And the other trick we have, and why our coffee's so good, is it's usually roasted about 2 days before you're having it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we get most of our coffee from a place up in Portland called Seven Virtues.
Oh, cool.
And
cool.
We have a relationship with those guys. They have a relationship with all the farms they get their coffee from. And so they like do their, roaster selection on a Sunday, ship it to us on a Monday. We have it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And then for the next few days, we're using like incredibly fresh small batch coffee.
Okay, so it's not just in my mind. It actually is really, really good coffee. Because I don't know if I always I'm like, maybe when it's psychosomatic, when I come into Peak Brain, I just crave coffee because I know my brain's going to get a workout if I'm doing like a focus-centered training. But I'm like, God, this is so good, like the taste of it. So now, just as an experiment to see how I do without caffeine, because I'm pretty dependent on it for energy. Yeah, I mean, like, I got to have it. But I just got involved with this company called Neurohacker Collective.
Oh, yeah, sure. Daniel
Yeah.
Schmechtenberg was on the show.
Oh, he was. He's
a
coming
few
on
weeks
my
ago.
show.
That's great. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Strap in. It's a little hard to keep up with Daniel on a podcast.
Good. I'm going to listen to your episode in preparation for it. But so I've been on something called Qualia, which is the product that it's like a nootropic stack. It's just, dude, it's insane.
Yeah, very stimulating.
It is so good.
Yeah.
It's been 3 days. You take like 3 pills in the morning, then later on you eat something, you take 6 more. The 6 you take after, it's called step 2. It's kind of more of a multivitamin kind of thing that's supportive of the nootropic stack in the ones you take before. But I don't know, it's stimulating, but in a different, like I don't get nervous like I do sometimes with caffeine. But I gotta say, like my brain is turned on, and I've tried all the racetams. I mean, anything I've ever heard of that is good for memory, focus, cognition, any of that I've tried, and this one is like insane. So that's why I'm doing the no caffeine experiment, because I want to really isolate it. Today I cheated. I put a little bit of Phenibut HCl in there.
Ooh, okay.
Just because I just, I like that GABA feeling.
Yeah.
It's like being drunk but still being focused.
There's L-theanine, I think, in Qualia, right? Or is
I'm not sure. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
There's
Phenibut can be, dangerous for listeners who've heard about Phenibut HCl. It's basically alcohol in a pill in terms of its effects. And if you use it once, you're like, oh my God, I felt so relaxed. I had the best night's sleep ever. I was Mr. Social at the party.
Yeah.
But if you use it the next day and the day after that, suddenly you're addicted to it like you've been drinking a bottle of alcohol for like 6 months.
Yeah.
It's incredibly rapid. And I know people who are, shall we say, experienced psychonauts who've done everything under the sun, including lots of crazy things that you probably shouldn't do. And a few days into trying Phenibut, they're profoundly addicted.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things that maybe it's individual biochemistry, but you can get very quickly in trouble with some of these things.
I agree.
Like Phenibut.
I agree. Yeah. Phenibut, I had a friend that was not for recreational purposes, but physically just had really bad back, and she was addicted to OxyContin. And so she was like addicted to opiates for real. And she was out here on a trip from New York, and she was running out of her opiates. And so we're like, oh man, her doctor's not out here.
Right.
And you're going to get really sick. You can't just quit taking OxyContin, She had like a really injured back. And so I don't know, I was doing some research, and there was like, lo and behold, Phenibut is like a substitute for, it treats withdrawals, opiate withdrawals. So I was like, great. So I gave her like the real dose one day. She's like, oh my God, I feel amazing. This is perfect. I'll be able to make it a few more days. And then the next day she's like, I don't know, give me more. I like that stuff. I was like, okay. So probably put like half a teaspoon or something in a drink for her, and she got so sick.
Did she?
Really, really bummed.
Like dizzy.
Dizzy, really not feeling well at all. So I was like, oh shit, you really need to pay attention with the Phenibut. You're right with the, if it has a tiny little scoop, and you're like, what's that going to do? Trust me, like I've OD'd on Yohimbe too.
Oh, that can be dangerous too.
Oh yeah, dude, I almost drove myself to Cedars, and it was right before I recorded a podcast. The guest shows up, and I was like, I might die at any moment, so if you see me thud over. But Phenibut, for me, what I do is I just cycle it. Like, there's no way I'll take it 2 days in a row. I take it a couple times a week, because I can tell when it's not doing anything. I haven't noticed any adverse effects, but I can tell when I don't get that nice thing. So I save it for special occasions, like I did it today, because I knew I was going to come record. And if I'm doing public speaking, or like you said, or something where I'm going to have to be really social, it is a nice sort of social lubricant, but you don't feel intoxicated.
Right.
I mean, I can't do stuff that makes me feel intoxicated, or I could go off the wagon and end up in LA County jail in about 2 hours, That's why I always say, when people ask me, like, why don't you drink? I say, I'm allergic. They say, what happens? I say, well, I break out in handcuffs. I've heard other people say, I break out in track marks. Now, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah. I have to be careful, in terms of taking stuff that gets you high.
And also, I mean, interactions, right? I mean, if you had Phenibut and then had a glass of alcohol on top of it, you might be in, dangerous degree of interaction. Yeah. And the Yohimbe you mentioned, the interaction there is with tyramine. You know about this? So
no.
Tyramine is what you don't take if you're on MAOI inhibitors.
Oh.
Smoked meats, fish, cheese, wine, coffee, all those deep, savory, smoky kind of things have tyramine in them. And if you are on an MAOI inhibitor and you take tyramine, you can have a hypertensive crisis that spikes your blood pressure so quickly that you have strokes and heart attacks and die.
Holy crap.
So it sounds like if you were shaky and having like a heart pounding thing, you probably had some chocolate with your yohimbi.
You know?
Or nuts.
I don't remember what I had, but
if you aren't paying attention to diet.
I got yohimbi because I was experimenting with the aphrodisiac effects of it, which is why most people take it. But this was one morning and I was just really tired, and I know that it's also a really strong stimulant too. I wasn't, there was no partner around to practice with, so I was like, I'll just, I'll take a little bit in my smoothie, whatever, it'll wake me up, But the dose for the yohimbi is like a match head. That's how big it is, like a wooden match head, like a tiniest little Coke spoon. And so that's the only thing I've ever done is that much, and you get the desired effect that you're looking for. But what happened was I had a tiny little bottle, and I went to like scoop some out, and I spilled the whole jar in my smoothie. And I was like, oh shit, and I didn't want to waste it, and it was all floating on the top, so I just scooped the yohimbi out of my smoothie, and I was like, I'm good. But apparently there was probably a lot left in there. Yeah, and dude, within 15 minutes, my heart started beating out of my chest. I turned red. I mean, I was...
Yeah, you had a hypertensive crisis.
Oh, dude, I was not feeling good. I took 2 saunas. I took like 3 cold showers. I took a bunch of activated charcoal. I took calcium bentonite clay, zeolites. I mean, I was just like trying to flush it out. And still, it went on for about 4 hours.
Oh,
I live really close to Cedars.
That's important.
So I was like, any moment I'm driving myself or calling an ambulance or something. It was that close. Wow. I mean, I've never felt that weird.
Yeah, my guess is there was some tyramines in your smoothie or something else. You had a lot in your system, chocolate in it before, or a lot of nuts, something. Because that sounds like what happens when you don't pay attention and have tyramines with MAOIs in your system.
Wow. So, yeah, it was gnarly. It just really sucked too, because I was trying to record. I'm like the host of the show that day.
Sweating. And
I was just like, breathing really fast and weird, and my heart was beating. Yeah. But this is what's good. This is why I'm the lifestylist. I'm sort of like the Johnny Knoxville of the health world. I'm willing to take a hit, for the team, to let people know, like, hey, this is a cool thing to play with, but be careful, like Tim Ferriss does a lot of that stuff too. I wouldn't do a lot of stuff Tim Ferriss does, but I'm glad he does, so I don't have to do it.
Right, exactly.
Go fight a judo master and get your arm snapped in half or something. Like, I'm good.
Yeah. What's he doing now? Is it fighting he's doing now?
I don't know.
He's doing also sort of hardcore training here in town, like a boxing gym or something.
Well, he's bandaged up, so I'm like, whatever he's doing, I'm not. I'm not doing anything that requires getting bandaged up.
Yeah, neurofeedback, painless.
Totally, man. Totally.
That's great. All right, so it sounds like you have a lot of things that you're trying. What are some things that you're either just starting to get into or you're curious about? Do you have any biohack wish list items or?
Interesting. Yeah, there is actually a device that I just tried the other day that's called the AMP Coil. And I've played around with PEMF technology here and there. And I've also played around with, what is it? Not Tesla.
TMS?
Shit. No, the little light tubes they use for cancer. Oh, man. I can't think of it right now. Not enough qualia this morning.
Right.
It's Tesla tech. No, it's not Tesla technology. It's PMF with, oh my God.
Is it a light stimulation thing or?
No, dude. It's the thing they've used for cancer. Here, hang on. I'll tell you what it is right here. The AMP Coil is this device that uses 2 of these different technologies. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what it is. Drum roll, please.
Nice.
I can't believe I'm not thinking of it. Okay.
I haven't yet tried it.
Okay, so it's Tesla-based PEMF.
Okay.
And then,
as in Tesla Coil, not Tesla Elon Musk.
Yeah, exactly. And then, Rife. Rife technology.
Okay.
Yeah. So over the course of all my wacky alternative healing stuff that I've tried, I've used Rife machines. The one that I've used it's like a little laptop computer, and it essentially reads biorhythms within your body and then sends frequencies into your body to break up parasites and things like that. So it can say like, oh, you have H. pylori, and it sends a frequency into your body that cracks the H. pylori cell, in theory. Okay. Sort of like an opera singer breaking a wine glass. That kind of thing. Like there's a certain frequency for all of these organisms. So in the Rife, you hold these little glass tubes and they have noble gases in them. Mm-hmm. It's really trippy. But you hold those things, and again, it's one of those kind of alpha theta things. You just go into some trippy land and you come out like feeling really good. So the amp coil combines both of those technologies, and it's really interesting because it's got this big magnet, a big copper magnet, like a giant donut. And you either set that on your head or on your abdomen, depending on what the protocol is. And so it sends this crazy Tesla coil PMF signal to you, according to whatever it's trying to treat, in conjunction with the other technology. So with the Rife. So how it determines what it is that you need is through voice recognition. So it's got like an iPad sort of interface, and you go A, E, I, O, U, whatever. You just say random stuff that it tells you to say, and it listens for... It has these very advanced algorithms that determines indiscrepancies in your nervous system or whatever it is according to your voice. It's really trippy. So I went on it for one day for like 3 hours. And again, same kind of experience, just in and out of all these things. I walked in there, I was having terrible anxiety that day because of some relationship stuff, and did like a number of different sessions for maybe 2 or 3 hours or something. And it was incredible, but I got the whole spiel from them, and I'm going to be working with that some more because the woman that turned me on to it had like all of these gut infections and digestive problems for years. And she tried herbal remedies and functional medicine, and she'd done everything that I would normally do myself or send someone to do. And she's like, dude, I did a 3-month protocol. I followed all, everything in the app, and I just did everything by the book according to this thing. And she got rid of everything by doing that, and said her gut and her digestion are just like absolutely cured, like she never had a problem in her life. So
interesting.
Yeah, so those kind of things I really like. It's like you never know how much of it's woo-woo and how much of it's science.
That's tough in the biohacking and in the health and medicine space. That's not traditional health and medicine. This is something I struggle with all the time. I mean, I work in neurofeedback, which, as you know, which of course is fairly well evidence-based. From the point of view of most of the things in the alt world, it's incredibly well validated. But from the point of view of most of the things in the traditional world, it's not all that well validated. And so, for me as a scientist, I have to sort of draw a line in the sand. Okay, this is over that line, therefore I'm not going to engage with it. This is within that, relative line. Rife has been one of those things that's been on the far side of the line for me for a long time. But PMF is not. I mean, there's a lot of neurofeedback being done in conjunction with PEMF.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's incredibly low voltage PMF, like, picovolts or something. It's not the same kind of EMF you would use, a PMF from those coils. It's incredible. It's, it's 1/1000th of that. But it uses, it's a company called Neurofeedback. And they actually make the QEEG amps that we use, the brain assessment amps that we use. But they also make a PEMF device that can stimulate at different frequencies sites on your head, and then you can do neurofeedback on the resulting EEG that shows up. Wow. So you can measure the EEG, do real-time neurofeedback, but then push the EEG around with PMF, and then do more neurofeedback to sort of cement the process.
That's amazing.
It's exciting technology. I haven't gotten into it yet, mostly because I have pretty good results with the way we work.
Yeah.
And I tend to fall. There's another stimulation technology, neurofeedback, that I don't use anymore called LENS, low energy neurofeedback, and there's a similar one called HPN, high performance neurofeedback. And these are essentially a series of stimulations along areas in the scalp, and they seem to work very well for damage, for traumatic brain injuries and things. Because I work with all brains, I'm not just working with damage, I find that things like that don't work as well for sleep issues or anxiety or stuff like that.
Interesting.
And so I tend to use the tools I use because they work pretty well. I'm not really religious about the tools, but I am religious about the science. That's kind of ways to say.
Well, that's the thing with me too, is like I want to know if there's the placebo and there's a subjective effect. Like I went on the amp coil. I was like, this is amazing. There's something going on here just intuitively. I don't know if it's the Rife, if it's the PMF or what it is. But what would really be cool is to which I just actually got my whole gut biome tested, and there was nothing, crazy in there, but there's a little bacteria, a little candida. So let me look at my labs, then go use the amp coil for 3 months, then go get my labs done.
Do it again.
That's what I'm interested. So right now I'm doing another experiment with, I have really almost lead poisoning. I have a lot of lead in my body.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, and pretty decent amount of arsenic and mercury. It really sucks. So I found that out with a challenged urine test, which is where you do a post and a pre-urine test to determine how much is just in your body versus if you ate some tuna or something, right? And I had a test the past 3 years with functional medicine. I'm always really high in lead. I'm like, I don't want to do the IV chelation.
No.
I just don't want to do it. It just intuitively, my body's like, no.
It's also quite stressful for your body, and the chelating agents are pretty extreme, and if they're not done properly, you can actually get pretty profoundly ill from those. And so chelation, there's some question: does it make more sense to leave the lead alone versus stir it up inside your body?
So here's my latest experiment: is I'm doing this citrus pectin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which they use, at Chernobyl and stuff, to get radiation out of people. And then I'm also using something called biophyllum, which is a brown seaweed extract.
Oh, okay.
Which they've also used to get metals and radiation out of people. They use it like in Gulf War syndrome and stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty hardcore. And so I'm doing both of those, and then I'm also doing niacin flushes in the sauna.
Yep.
So I'm going to go I just got my labs done. I'm going to go 6 months with those 3 modalities, like religiously, then get my labs done and see if I moved the needle on the metals, because I have a feeling I will. Now, lead, they say, gets into your bones, and like, what are you going to do? It's just in there, but...
Yeah, lead acts like calcium, basically, and not just in your bones, but like in your neurons. A physiological science professor of mine used to joke that life is a battle against calcium ions. You're always trying to shuttle calcium out of the cell, essentially, and then it comes back in as a signaling molecule. And life is about balancing that shuttling of calcium back and forth. But lead looks like calcium to cells and binds to calcium receptors. Usually it doesn't bind in a way that's reversible. It sticks to the receptor, and that's it. The receptor is no longer usable by calcium ever again. And so that's probably what's happening in the bones, is it's being incorporated the way calcium would be. That being said, bone is not static tissue. It's dynamic tissue of osteoclasts and osteoblasts that consume and build bone. It's sort of a dynamic process. So I bet if you add weight-bearing exercise, things to stress your bones, you'll cause more dynamic turnover of bone tissue. Just a hunch.
Interesting. I wonder if vibration therapy would also do the same thing.
Vibration therapy sounds really exciting to me, and I got excited about when I first heard about it, and I failed to find one shred of actual science, unfortunately.
Really?
We're looking at, but
about like building bone density.
Yeah. I mean, nothing. I've looked and found nothing about any real effect.
Isn't that funny? Like in the health world, there's these memes. Like I just hear one person say, like, "Well, they used it on astronauts when they come back into the atmosphere to build bone density that they lost in space." I go, "Oh, okay, that's what it does."
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it'd be interesting, but I have to believe that challenging the bone tissue while doing things to strip out crap that's in your bone tissue would do something, even though the conventional wisdom is that lead gets in and stays in. I bet that probably is not completely true.
That's interesting.
So you may want to add another protocol into your...
I can do that. I can do that, yeah. So I like the woo-woo stuff. And I like just out there shit and weird technology, but I also just love to see if there's an actual quantifiable result. I do have a little bit of that scientific mind where I'm like, I don't want it to all be wishful thinking.
Right.
Like I want to see an A/B test and show me that something's going on.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, not that I have to understand everything about what I do, and I wouldn't do neurofeedback if I do. I joke that it's a phenomena we manage half the time, not some, oh yeah, sure, let's go in and fix your brain. I actually joke that I'm sort of half between a personal trainer and a mechanic, but that's giving the mechanic perspective way too much benefit. We really don't understand the machine to that degree. But that being said, if there's a technology that I don't understand, that's fine. If it's a technology that people are saying works for X, Y, and Z reasons, and I know X, Y, and Z is utter nonsense, that's when I'm like, wait a minute, that's not how reality works. The thing you're saying, your reasons for justifying it, if those are wrong, I've discredited what your technology.
Right.
I don't have, if you give me, I don't know why it works, but it works, I'm much more likely to say, oh yeah, let's check it out. Versus it works because it helps the third moon of Chiron when you're ascendant in Jupiter, treats your chakras better. It's like, really, come on.
Well, you just described Kundalini Yoga. It's like Yogi Bhajan says that this does this to your kidneys and this heals your past lives and this sets your grandpa free in heaven. You're like, I don't, can you prove it? No, but after class, I feel really good.
Right, exactly.
But there is, I have a hard time with some of that stuff too, as out there and Sedona vibe.
It also can be damaging. I mean, there's a lot of damage going on these days with the anti-vax sort of movement. There's zero, not one shred of evidence that vaccines encourage autism. Not one shred of evidence. And a bad study 20 years ago and a lot of fear-mongering has meant that a lot of parents have pulled kids off of vaccines. They don't get vaccinated early on, and they get life-threatening illnesses. If you get the measles vaccine at 2 years old, whatever it is, for the next 20 years, your health status is dramatically improved compared to if you don't get the measles vaccine. Because measles is an opportunistic virus. If you get it, it degrades your immune system long term, and you're subject to all these other infections. And then, of course, we had in Disneyland here a couple of years ago massive measles outbreaks because of unvaccinated individuals. And there's no reason for us to have. I mean, there's polio outbreaks happening in the world now because of this. There's no reason for us to have measles, rubella, polio, diseases we understand extremely well and have been treating effectively for like 100 years, maybe 50 years. But it's this adherence to a bit of misinformation. That's faith, right? And I think that we need some faith thinking about that we believe our science. But if you adhere to the bad information strongly without the ability to examine it, that I think can cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, that's interesting with the vaccine. Someone was asking me about that the other day, and I'm by no means an expert, but I said, from a layman's point of view, just being interested in this and reading everything I can, I'm like, seems like some of them are valid, but we probably do too many.
Yeah, no, we probably do too many in terms of stressing the body out.
Right.
They can probably spread out a little bit.
Right.
But like the form of mercury that's used in large batch vaccines, well, A, that's not really used in this country anymore. But B, it's not the same form of mercury that gets absorbed by the body. It's ethyl versus methyl or something. So it's a form that passes straight through with no grab.
Wow, interesting.
So it has zero impact. And so people hold up these, arsenic, mercury, and well, that's not really true. It's sexy, it's inflammatory, it's a big attention getter, but there's zero evidence there. I mean, yes, there are vaccines that occasionally cause trouble, but by and large, we don't have any evidence of any of that.
That's funny. People, it's interesting the way that we kind of just go along with information like that.
Well, information that fits our worldview, we tend to absorb. And information that doesn't fit our worldview, we tend to not even perceive.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the trippy other side of that, though, Andrew, is like, I mean, not in terms of the vaccines and stuff. I really don't know enough about all of it. I just have like an inherent distrust for every part of the big establishment.
Sure.
So I'm like, it's got to be bad for you if they're doing it. But in terms of empirical evidence, it's in the woo-woo thing, and I like talking to you about this because you're into metaphysics and spirituality, but you're also very scientific, so that's a good balance to have. But what's trippy is there's so many things that have an effect on us that just can't be proven. It's like, how do you prove the effect of love?
Yeah.
It's like when you walk in a room and a puppy's wagging its tail like the one in the other room there, prove to me that that's not making me feel good, or prove to me that it is. Why? I don't know, because I like puppies, because I watch cartoons. No, there's something going on between our energies or our consciousness or something that transmits a feeling of love to me, and it makes me feel elevated.
And proof isn't needed. I mean, subjectively, you're getting the benefits.
Right.
It's when the proof you're claiming or disbelieving, it's when other people believing or disbelieving that affects their health negatively. Like if you went and said, everyone must have a puppy, it probably wouldn't affect very many people's health negatively.
Right.
But if you said, nobody can exercise ever again, it's bad for you, would have massive, and we already do, but would have increased heart disease and everything else. So it's really this strict adherence to these ideas blindly, be it science or be it spirituality or be it an unproven, health intervention. It's the blind adherence that tends to make me go, oh, wait, hold on a second.
Right.
And if you're buzzword compliant, there's one neurofeedback system out there where all of their cadre of marketers are saying nonlinear. And I ask somebody, well, what do you mean by that, nonlinear? I have a degree in neuroscience. I do nonlinear modeling of the brain, nonlinear modeling of differential equations and things. What are you talking about when you say your system's nonlinear? And they can't answer that, because it's a buzzword that they figured out. And other buzzwords in the health and medicine and wellness and biohacking space that really drive me nuts include things like detox or quantum. I'm sorry, if you use the word quantum and you're not a theoretical physicist, get the fuck out of my face.
Funny. Yeah.
There's a marketing and there's sexy language that people believe. And I think you need to be, that's one of those words that if you're saying that, you don't know what you're saying.
Right. That's funny, the quantum thing. Yeah. There's a lot of that in the new agey sort of medicine, Yeah. I mean, that's in terms of like the amp coil and all these different kinds of gadgets, that's like, I like the idea of experimenting with that stuff and testing it. But the thing is with all that is everything's like $5, $10, $15, $20,000, you know? So it's like,
especially the first Rife suitcases that are 25, 30,000, massive analog devices.
And I've been on all of that kind of stuff, but it is kind of difficult from that perspective because a lot of the languaging is like, well, is that really even a thing when it makes a claim? Like the quantum word, that's so true. I never thought about that, but it's like, it works on a quantum level. I'm like, oh, okay, here's 10 grand.
Right, exactly.
Oh, you said quantum? Where's my credit card?
Exactly. And to me, you don't have to believe what you're doing and you don't have to understand it fully. But if things fail the sniff test, because they're actually saying things that aren't true to justify why this thing works. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but the reason you've just given me has turned me off completely to what it is you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's the line I try to walk, is to go, is what you're saying plausible? And does it fit roughly with my idea about how reality and physics works? There's a neurofeedback system out there that trains below 1 hertz, 0.00001 hertz, which means that one wave's happening every 3 weeks or something. In EEG, in physics, there's the Nyquist theorem for sampling EEG. You need to sample twice as long as the wave you want to measure. You want to measure a theta wave, which happens 4 hertz, 4 times per second. It's 250 milliseconds. Got to measure it for half a second to get 1 theta wave, to get signal processing theory. At 0.00001 hertz, you can't measure long enough in half an hour of training to get any effect, to measure the wave you're supposedly rewarding or inhibiting. So it's things like that. It's when the language and the explanations for the science starts to break down by people that should know better. That's when I'm like, all right, go away.
Well, that's the advantage you have of being highly educated, and the disadvantage of people like me that have fallen for a lot of snake oil,
Maybe. Although I just got back last night from a 5-day workshop retreat. Basically, I was on a Sufi mountaintop in upstate New York, and we leased the center out for the week, and we do, ecstatic work and shamanic work and drumming and tattooing and everything all night long. And is there any, scientific rigor in my understanding of what we do? Not at all. I understand it from an ecstatic, shamanic point of view about the ordeal and Mercedes Eliade pushing your mind and changing your consciousness. And from an ecstatic point of view, I understand what's happening to my consciousness. I'm shifting the shape of my perspective. From a neuroscience point of view, it's a non-starter. I have no idea what consciousness is. In fact, I don't actually believe in consciousness from both a neuroscience and a Buddhist perspective. I'm not sure consciousness really exists.
I remember you telling that to me before, and I was like, how? But then who's the one watching when you meditate? Like, who's the one that sees your emotions flare up? You see a little wave of anger, and then you see a repetitive thought. Like, who's the one observing that phenomenon, I
would suggest it's a moment of consciousness, little c, without a who, without an I, a capital C consciousness that persists across moments of consciousness. I think moments of consciousness are an emergent property.
Interesting.
Now, we can get away from maybe there's a soul, maybe there's not, maybe there's a mind, whatever. It's an emergent property. I think that's pretty valid. But the overarching connection of those moments of emergent consciousness into the capital C or the capital I self, I'm not sure I have any belief in that. And, I sort of take a ship of Theseus, old school view on this. You replace one plank of the ship, wooden ship with a tin plank. Is it the same ship? Yeah. Was another plank on the ship with a tin plank. Is it the same ship? Yeah. At what point does the entity, the identity of the entity, different? And in consciousness, it from my perspective, it's different than immediately. And even the meat suit, we replace every molecule in all of our cells every, 7 years or so? Not every cell gets divides, but every cell repairs and replaces molecules. And you don't have any of the molecules you had a decade ago. So none of what you were carrying around 20 years ago when you had some of this out-of-control, dysregulated behavior is with you now.
Right. God,
in spite of having memories, in spite of having the memories and experience and the learning.
Yeah.
But is that learning necessarily identity?
Right.
That's where it all breaks down for me.
That's interesting. So it's almost from that perspective, then there's just one giant consistent consciousness and we tap into that for moments. Is that?
I would say there's no consistent consciousness. There's only the consequence of action.
Oh, interesting.
Dependent origination from a Buddhist perspective. Things exist, and they exist because of things that happened before them. But I mean, I'm a Theravada sort of Buddhist basic technique, no cosmology. And for me, the question about what happens beyond the physical realm or the cosmology, the creation of the universe stuff, is not only to some extent not knowable, but it's the wrong question. It's very possible for us to reduce suffering, improve health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, now. And we aren't doing that. So do that. And worry about if you have a self or a soul or a consciousness outside of the momentary experience. Well, will that change how you behave? Will you be nicer if you have a soul? If you think you have a soul?
Right.
Maybe.
I think for me, I'll just worry about my problems less.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like, I know that this is temporary, whatever it is that I'm going through.
But if there's no self, then your problems don't really matter.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. So I wonder what happens then. I have this book I think it's called The Big Book of Near-Death Experiences.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this big tome of a book. And in the book, all these people describe essentially what happens when their physical body dies. And then say they're being operated on in the emergency room and they, flatline. And then they are floating up in the corner of the room and they watch all the doctors and they hear everything that's said. And then they bring them back, they resuscitate them. And then they come back like, Dr. Smith, you just said this to Dr. Hill or whatever, and it's like, what the F just happened? And those things are so sort of universal.
They are. Not to stick my pin in the balloon again.
Yeah. No, I love it because this is the kind of shit that I love to talk about and just trip on because we really don't know either way.
We really don't know. And keeping that perspective is the first healthy thing we have to do is go, we don't know.
Yeah.
But we can think about what might be true. And from a scientific point of view, neuroscientific point of view, there's a company that produced a device. A friend of mine who recently died helped develop the algorithm for it. And the device is called the Bispectral Index by Aspect Medical. And what the Bispectral Index does, it measures the coupling of theta to gamma waves, the timing coupling in the brain. It turns out that timing coupling is precise. And if you break that coupling, you lose consciousness. And if you have that coupling, you are conscious. You can look unconscious, but be conscious. And the amount of conscious under anesthesia experiences that happened in surgical centers was very, very high, I think, for most of surgery. And then in the 80s or 90s, probably late 90s, maybe even like 2000, I forget when Aspect Medical came in, suddenly there was almost no anesthetic sort of, mistake where you think the person's unconscious, but they're actually perceiving. So I'd be really curious to see if out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences in surgical context have gone away with the implementation of this bispectral index device in almost every hospital in the Western world.
Interesting.
So
wow.
I'm not sure what the answer is there, but I think we have a data point that some grad student could get a dissertation out of.
That's cool. Yeah. What about the unified field or the unified mind where I'm thinking of my friend Jeff. I'm like, oh man, I got to call Jeff. And then Jeff calls, those type of things. And I've found with certain relationships, it's just uncanny. It's nonstop or where you complete someone's sentence or, you're like, hey, have you ever thought about, skipping a rock across a lake? And they're like, dude, I was just about to say, do you want to go skip rocks across a lake? Like some really random shit that
I don't know.
You didn't see in a movie. There's no other context for it that would spring both of your memories at the same time. It's just totally random. That kind of stuff
there is something that you didn't perceive at a conscious level, at a aware level, and it's more unconscious. And I don't know.
Right, like when you hear a pop song on the radio, and then 5 hours later you find yourself singing. You're like, that's weird. Why did that pop into my head? And it's like, no, you just heard it in Kmart or something.
And maybe you're on a bus and you saw a sign, and then they think about the thing on the sign or something. Right. So I don't know is a short answer, but unified consciousness, positing something we have no evidence of versus a cueing theory of memory that we have lots of evidence for. You may have a sense of which side I'm coming down on this.
Yeah, interesting. So I love it, dude.
All right, well, I'll stop being a woo-woo Scrooge here for a second. And this has been a great hour, Luke. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we let you go, where can folks track you down, find more information about the things you're working on? Where can they check out your School of Fashion? Where can they check out the podcast?
Sure. Well, I think most people listening to your show probably aren't that interested in becoming a fashion stylist. That business is called School of Style, but that's how I buy vitamins. But my podcast is called The Lifestylist, and you can find it on iTunes. And then most of my stuff happens on my website, which is lukestorey.com.
Great.
And I work with people in a coaching capacity and stuff like that, people that are interested in things that I've been talking about. I'm pretty good at lifestyle design and helping someone kind of put all this stuff together for themselves. And then I'm also really big on Instagram, too. So I'm always on Instagram at Luke Storey. That's Storey. And I do a lot of Instagram stories and crazy stuff, you know, like everything that we just talked about, I'll document it all the time when I'm doing and things like that. So that's a great place to connect as well.
All right, folks. Well, this has been another episode of Head First with Dr. Hill. Today's guest, Luke Storey, who is a consummate life stylist, will help you dial in all kinds of health, wellness, and performance benefits if you're curious about operating in this somewhat Wild West space of biohacking. Look him up. And folks, take care of your brains, and we'll see you next week.